My first rent vest was $19.99.
Yeah, there you go. And we did the article for Money Magazine at the time where we analysed, the value of rent vesting versus, which effectively is live where you want to live and then ultimately trap that surplus and put it to work,
Yep.
right? But I think now that's even evolved a little bit more where people are also still compromising on where they're living. Like they're still trying to be budget conscious, but they're still trying to get on the property ladder. And so we're seeing a lot of this through the next generation of buyers agents who are teaching people to try and buy 2 or 3 affordable properties really quickly and get a quick win on those and start trading property. Now that's not the rent vesting that, and that's not the value investing that we believe in, but we can understand why there's tactics in that, but there's also self-interest for those buyers agents. They get to buy multiple properties and charge multiple fees. Brokers get to obviously do multiple loans. So it's definitely a different way of thinking about how rent vesting plays itself out. But it's a thing and it's an opportunity, right?
I guess to your point too, like we're not trying to say rent vest to build a big massive portfolio. We're saying rent vest to get into the market where you want to go. So let's circle back. You're spending big rent in Sydney. You can't afford to get into Sydney, but you can afford to buy something in a regional town that stacks up, right? Commutable regional town.
Yep.
And then you move into a bit of hustle and restraint as well. So you cross those over.
Yep.
And then you ideally would hold that property, but you may have to trade out of it to get the deposit to then buy where you want to be and get on the ladder closer to where you want to do. So remember the context of what we're discussing here is not to get into rent vesting for big portfolio. It's rent vesting to get you into compromise so that then you get into where you want to go.
And I think, with the rising tide lifting all ships at the moment and this hustle that's going on in that space, that there might be a false dawn here around that there's easy gains to be made. Like the reality is if too many first-home buyers get locked out of this market, politically it's going to be challenging. And so we'd expect regulation might come in and sort of swathe problem of these quick gains. So we support rent vesting. We think it's, but it's not for everyone, but it's definitely another opportunity.
Okay, the next one we want to talk about is downsizing your expectations. So let's imagine you're a young family, you've been living with mum and dad so you can save a deposit, you've been doing really, really well, and you have aspiration for a big block, a house on a big block so that your kids can run around. Great. But what compromise might you need to consider there? Well, clearly, if you go back to our framework of size of the land, quality of the dwelling, it's definitely one of those two. So what we're suggesting here for those folks is instead of buying a house, which is the preference, we know, and it's what we preach on the podcast, you might go and find something that is, to use our term, investment worthiness, investment grade. So a townhouse or a villa unit, and by villa we mean maybe a shared driveway. It's got its own land. Yep. So that you can actually still give your kids or your family that opportunity to have your own space, particularly if you're currently on some form of compromise to save your deposit by living still back at home with mum and dad or whatever. But get in closer, get your townhouse, and then just really start to go back to hustle and restraint so that you can build the equity, power down some loan, and then either use it as a springboard to buy what you want, or again trading through that to get your deposit so that you move onto the bigger house and land.
So come back to your non-negotiable. If your non-negotiable is I want to be close to the action and we really love that, then the compromise is absolutely on type of dwelling, no doubt, because we're not compromising on the land. So let's start to think about that. And then to your point, if we get into a property that might be, a townhouse that might have been built in 70s or 80s, or a villa that might have been built in the 60s, jump into that. And if it's in original condition, potentially a bit of sprucing as well as, as well as slamming the debt, especially before kids. I mean, the kids bring a different variable because you've got other things to think about. You've got to think about schooling, resources, daycare, all of the other resources around that area, availability of schooling, quality of schools, all those types of things. But I think if you're young and you're thinking about getting into the market, get in before you're 5 or 7 years before you're thinking about family. You will be really well set up if
you're agile. You're at that point. There's the agility that you lose when you're trying to do it with family. So, okay. So first one's hustle and restraint. Second one's rent vesting. Third one is downsizing your expectations so you can get in. Another area that people can compromise, Ben, is by teaming up, have some form of co-ownership with ideally blood, but mate, well, actually, that's a big statement. For
Well,
some
no,
people,
I think it's a reasonable
yeah,
statement because
assuming harmony.
yes, assuming harmony. I think that would be it's a lot safer, and I think you'll get a lot more buy-in from your parents if it is blood related. Agreed, agreed. I mean, the risk we know with friends is you've got to have a contract, and you've got to be really clear on what on that contract is, because if you're going to be starting out and you think that this is going to people's situations aren't going to change, or their interests aren't going to change over a 10-year period, you're wrong. So you've got to have, in my mind, a minimum of a 5-year commitment. And there's got to be some hurt in terms of if one of them wants to cash out, they're going to lose the gain and the other party gets to cash in that gain.
That's the point, isn't it? Having some form of restraint that creates a disincentive to break, because everyone's excited. We all want to get on the ladder, and the thing with people living under the same roof is it works best when you've got the same agenda. And so when you even siblings don't have the same life agenda, friends have an agenda that matches at the time of entry, but over time that agenda can part. But look, the reason it's so good is you can pull your deposit. Like if that's the hard bit, and we acknowledge that maybe our grandparents, because affordability has been hard over the generations, we've said that before, but it's the deposit raising which is the challenge.
Absolutely.
So if you can pull the deposits and buy together, you will compromise on full control. You will compromise on independence. However, you'll get a fast track into the market, hopefully a better location. Therefore, as a result, maybe 1 or 2% better growth than if you had to go on your loan. And at some point in time when you need to part ways, ideally it's a principal place of residence for the both of you, and you move on.
It's all commercial. So let me just explain. So yes, advantages are really strong around double deposit. So that means less debt. These days with loans, you can actually do split loans through your broker, and that will allow you to track the portion that you're paying down. So it's nice and clean there. You could have both of you initially say, we're going to both move in. So we're going to save on rent. So that's a pro as well. But then maybe what if you did partner up? Well, your partner's feeling like they want their own space. So you get to move out. And that's true. The other person is still on a commercial rent. So it's a commercial rent for them. And if they want the place exclusively themselves, they're still paying the commercial rent. And that goes into a pool. So it's really easy to basically do the numbers around that. So if it's just all done commercially and everyone knows what the rules of engagement are, you're going to get a good result.